challenge their proof. Cut the wires, shatter the screen, unplug the lies, reveal what's unseen. Twisdon360, no filters, just truth. Time to awaken, challenge their proof. Time to awaken, challenge the proof.
Hello, welcome to Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. Cut up the wire, shattered the screen, challenge the probe. It's time to awaken. So today we are going to talk about one of the searing issues in the Middle East, and it is the Iranian-Israeli war. A war that is absolutely a war that is fueled by empire. So let's go to the issue. The title, From Tel Aviv to Tehran, Empire Test Resistance and Respond. This is Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. No filters, no peer, no spin, just radical clarity. Today, Israel bombed Iranian soil. Iran replayed hard, and now what we are about to unpack is more than missile planes. It's decades of imperial design, economic leverage, and resistance doctrine and global consequences. Our focus in this two-part conversation of Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged is going to go like this. The PAC segment is going to look for the factual timeline and imperial role, and the second segment is going to look at the strategic logic comparisons, Vietnam, Iraq, Libya, and global reverberation. So let's begin. Segment one is what just happened and who is really pulling the triggers. On June 13th, Israel executed Operation Rising Lion. Over 200 Israeli jets, including F-35s, drones, penetrated Iranian airspace. Reported targets nuclear enrichment plants at Natanz, Fordo, Isfahan. Senior RGC's commanders, homes, air bases, Tehran media buildings were targeted, and about 20 of the command chain has been eliminated. And this is very telling. And not only very telling, but if you look at the preemptive attack by the Israeli regime, you probably know the amount of desperation that Benjamin Netanyahu is moving with, because this is a Netanyahu's living dream to attack the Iranian regime, and he's been saying that he's gonna go for regime change and decapitating the nuclear production, which is untrue. Absolutely, we all know that. What we have is that the official death toll from Iran, at least about 78, including IGRC commander Hossein Salami, former nuclear chief Predun Abbasi, and others. Over 229 injured. Satellite images show wide destruction, power grids obliterated at Natanz, ruptured tunnels in the underground Fordo site. But there was a report that there is nothing happened to the site in the Fordo because it's in the desert, in deep down in the desert, about pipe centrifuges to pour centrifuges down there, and it is kind of sheltered in the building. So infrastructure damage far beyond surgical strike. The legal truth is that when a foreign country, a sovereign state, when a foreign country invaded a sovereign state, or when a foreign country goes to a sovereign state to attack its military site, when a sovereign state's nuclear site, military commands, and civilian structures are targeted without provocation, it is not defense, it is aggression. This is the honest truth, and that is what I'm trying to just convey. But due to the network problem we are having, is that I just got a little bit shaky. But let's continue. It is not defense, it is aggression. And this is how Zionist regime has been carrying out this aggression for quite a long time, unhindered, unaccountable, and unquestioned. Now here is the plot. Here is where the plot thickens. Israel's airstrike did not come in strategic vacuum. The U.S. notified in advance. Surveillance satellites, intel sharing, and fight coordination were likely involved. Yet Western governments penned surprised and neutrality. Iran could be a great country if it quits nuclear hubs. Rubio, other Western officials, we were not involved. Netanyahu framed it as a historic blow to Iran's bomb-making. Let's call it what it is. It is state-sponsored assassination campaign designed to destabilize regional rival backed by empire-level complicity. Well, now, fast forward less than 2 days, for example, we are in the third days of the strike and war between Iran. You can call it war. The Iran in the midnight of that day launched Operation True Promise. 3. Iran strikes back. Iran responded with force. Within hours, 150 plus ballistic missiles and over 100 drones surged toward Israel. Targets included Ministry of Defense, Tel Aviv, Kiryat, as they call it, Nebatim and Palmachim air bases, civilian areas in Haifa and central Israel. And, in today, the day we started this episode, it's deepened in Haifa. There was a massive civilian casualties and destruction in infrastructure. Israel claims to have 90 to 92% of the missiles and drones intercepted, but at least 24 Israeli civilians were killed and nearly 600 wounded. Some pipe projectiles breached the dome, damaging civilian infrastructure, injuring families, igniting supplies depot, specifically in Haifa. The psychological impact: air raid sirens in Tel Aviv for the first time. Human shells deployed at military site. Evacuation for children living near strategic location. Public anger erupted. Civilian casualties and public disruption and national trauma. The political tremor inside Israel. Netanyahu's hardline coalition is fracturing. His far-right allies demand escalation, but average citizen want a camp. The average citizen, they don't want this madness, this Netanyahu madness that is going to take the region into the wider regional war. The second thing is the economic undercurrent, Strait of Hormuz, and it is cross chairs. The Strait of Hormuz is very important, and let's pause and zoom out. If the military confrontation wasn't enough, the world economy is watching. Since the unrest threatened to sever the Strait of Hormuz, this narrow waterways transit nearly 20% of the global supply, about 20 million barrels of oil daily, 1/3 of global sea-traded crude. Iranian threat to close it have already pushed oil over $130 per barrel. The consequences ripple outward. Gas prices shock at the pump. Shipping costs doubled. Insurance skyrockets in Persian Gulf, and global inflation spikes, and global south bleeds, because it is terrifying. Many countries in Africa and Asia and third world depend on this oil importation and gas importation, so it would be very troubling. And don't forget the airline, the airways are going to be very expensive. The traveling by air is going to be expensive, and because of the diesel prices, Western leaders suddenly talk about de-escalation, not out of principle, but economic self-preservation. And this is well known in their own greedy, aberrized way of thinking and looking at everybody that is not Western or is not Caucasian as a imperial. This is how they behave. Let's take, say, comparative resistance, Vietnam, Libya, and now Iran. We echo the Vietnam moment. US dropped 7 million tons of bombs but failed. Vietnam resisted, including its elite network and local militias. Today, Iran mirrored this asymmetric war through proxies, adaptive missile defense and compensation strategies, an economy that survived sanctions, grew deterring mechanisms. Unlike Iraq and Libya, Iran refused to disarmament in 2003 and 2006. Iraq invited inspection and was invaded. Libya relinquished nukes and was bombed. Iran watched and learned and hardened. Many says that this is gonna take the Iranian down the way because they were not about to build the nuclear weapons. They don't want to obtain the nuclear weapons. They have stated clearly that their own nuclear is a civilian purpose nuclear for energy supply, but they were bullied, and Trump wanted Netanyahu to bully Iranians into the table. But let's take a look at the Vali Nasr, an Iranian American scholar who bring out the Iran grand strategy, history of politics, in his own recent book. I quote, he say, a critical voice, Vali Nasr, scholar and strategist. He sees Iran's posture not as ideological aggression but strategic self-protection. Iran does not seek dominance but insulation, an ability to resist empire. Nuclear brinkmanship is not about first strike capacity, it's about survival. And these tactics, missiles, drones, proxies, aren't hostilities. There are deterrents, a declaration that sovereign Iran cannot be bullied. In conclusion, a call to consciousness is absolutely needed. Let's be clear, this isn't Israel-Iran war. This is an empire challenge on sovereignty and sovereignty pushing back. It's the Western Empire challenging the Iranian sovereignty, and the sovereignty is pushing back. This global hierarchy is trying to mess up. This is a global hierarchy versus messy, chaotic, hopeful resistance. And where do we stand? We call for solidarity with Gaza, Beirut, Tehran, ceasefire, but not a peace that ignores sovereignty. A peace that you have been bullied to come down to negotiating table does not make a sense. It doesn't make a sense at all. It is a crazy that you are gonna be bullied to come down to negotiating table, breaking the media narrative of moral equivalence. We're never gonna go into the breaking the narrative of moral equivalence. We're gonna look at it from the way these empires have been threatening to take down every single nation that is against their own wishes, which is crazy, and not only crazy but stupid. I mean, this is Netanyahu bullshit. He wanted to bring America up the war, but what we found out that is even the MAGA movement is a standing up to the Donald Trump and seeing this as and seeing it as a betrayal. And here we are come to give you a narrative of moral equivalence, a renewed anti-imperialist left correcting global struggle here at Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. We declare we won't normalize empires, bombs, or smokescreen diplomacy. We speak the truth and we stand unwavering, and we would be, following up what is going on. This is Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. No spin, no plot, no pure. This is it. And we're going to go to the second segment. We talk about who hit first and who come up. The Israeli hit the Iranian, and the Iranian retaliate. And now the whole issue has changed. That the global public opinion and so on, the narrative is collapsing. The story that Israel can bomb with impunity is over. That they cannot bomb with impunity without consequence. It is over. The mate of one-sided war is ending. As Noam Chomsky once said, what is termed the international community depends on very special definition, standard in the West, where that term means the United States and anybody who goes along with it. That's nonsense. This so-called international community is now urging Iran to show restraint, the same international community that said nothing when Iran was attacked. This is not diplomacy, this is hypocrisy in the service of empire. And let's be clear, as we say in the end of the last episode, we don't stand with the Iranian regime. We don't stand with Saudi monarchs. We don't stand with Zionist supremacist regime. We stand with justice, sovereignty, and the right of resistance. And we refuse to accept world order where some lives are worthless, some borders can be violated, and some aggressions are always centered as victims. This is nonsense, and we're never gonna believe in this nonsense and kind of be pinned into tapping tree. We're never going to tap out to the empires. And the history of resistance is absolutely clear, beginning from Latin America, from Asia and Africa. The struggle of global South is very important. And the problem is that even in this conflict, the global South is always the first to pay the price for imperial adventurism. This is why the West wants to escalate just enough to protect Israel, but not enough to disrupt the global market. But you can control fire once it's spread, and that is what makes Iran dangerous to empire. Not its bomb, but its leverage. Now, let's talk about the rhythm with the historic struggle. The Vietnam taught the world that lesson, and the Iran is going to take the course. You can't turn technology against itself. Through guerrilla logic and ideological stamina, Iran learned very well, and it fortified its internal economy under sanctions. It developed asymmetric warfare, as we talk about, and those proxies, and it is pro-survival. So let's remind our listeners and viewers, we are going to continue to bring up these issues. And the conclusion is, what now? If this war expands, if Israel launches full-scale response and continue to bomb Iran and it escalates further, it won't stop at Tel Aviv or Tehran. It will engulf Gaza, Beirut, Baghdad, Dubai, Doha, perhaps even Riyadh. And the oil market will shake, the economies will tremble, the refugee numbers will explode, and the entire imperial narrative will collapse. But remember, this is Iran, not Libya. This is Iran, not Iraq. And the resistance from Palestine to Persia is not terrorist act. It's self-defense against imperial aggression. Here we have been saying it repeatedly, that this is Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged, and this is all we have got for you today. See you next time, and thank you very much.